welcome back to Tarot Tats and Tea. This is the third time that I am recording the next part of our Ancestral Grimoire journey, and the reason being I tried using StreamYard so that I could get an extra screen up and have a camera facing my table, and I was using my phone. Now the video turned out really well, but there was an awful lot of crackling in the sound, so that's just not good enough. So until I get a visualizer and use my laptop, I can't have a double screen, unfortunately, and this is stuff that I would like to show you. So I'm just going to have to hold it up. Right, first of all, I have been doing my bits and bobs in preparation for starting part 2 of this amazing book and this wonderful journey that we're on. And one of the parts that we're looking at now are the tools. Now, we did look at them briefly and go over them, but I'm just going to share with you what I have done so far and the supplementary cards that are now accompanying us on this next route of this journey. So as you know, I'm going to be using a number of things, and my concern was using Lenormand and maybe runes too, but not so badly. But it turns out that Lenormand and runes are actually optional. I'm going to continue my journey with the tools I have, and I might decide to come back at a later date and add some more, as you know, if I become more au fait with runes and with Lenormand, and see what added depths I can get between me and my ancestors. So what am I using so far? As we already know, there's the 2 tarot decks, the Universal Celtic Tarot and Tarot of the Abyss. And so far, in the little bits that we have done in part 1 with the cards, which is very little to be honest, because the meat and veg all appears in part 2, the really gritty stuff. But part 1 of this book is all about the preparation. Now, I have done one of the exercises as in stepping into the land of tarot. That's actually quite amazing. I have done stepping into tarot cards in the past, but stepping into the land of tarot is more sort of, it's like free reign to walk around, and whoever appears in your visualizations are the characters you're meant to meet, are the aspects of your ancestors that you're meant to meet, because each card is sort of an ancestor. The characteristics of that card will be the characteristics of the ancestor that you're going to meet. You might meet the character of the card, you might meet an ancestor. It's all what just naturally happens in your visualization. It was very interesting. That was just in my practice of this visualizing, and the steps are there in the book, which I'll go through with you, and it's really quite an enjoyable experience. If you can visualize, it's fantastic, but unfortunately you do get people that can't visualize, and it's very difficult for them. In that case, look at your cards. What is each card telling you? What characteristics and traits of a person are you getting from a card, just randomly picking them? But if you're into visualization or visualizing, it's amazing, and that's one of the tools that we'll be starting part 2 with. That's the first activity before you go on to get really stuck into it, is this practice of visualizing and making notes afterwards. And I haven't done that side yet because, like I say, the visualizing has been sort of on a practice level, and I've been doing quite a lot of that, and that's why I haven't sort of rushed in to make the next video, because I wanted to speak to you from having had the experience of doing the activity. Now, I've moved on into part 2, so I'm going to put a little marker here because I don't want to lose my spot there. But I'm just going to go back now and bring you up to speed as to where I am. So we went through looking at the court cards and how they, the characteristics of the court cards. We looked at the different sabbats and what they all stood for, and we went on and stopped at the Land of Tarot. That's where I marked it. I have to come back to this. We talked briefly about the tools. So going over here now, just bear with me. Right. So my first tool is my tarot decks and the two oracle card decks to have set aside should I decide to bring oracle into them, and that's the Sacred Forest and the Celtic Moon. I'm going to be using my pendulum, okay, and if you have a host of pendulums, or even if you have one, or if you don't have a pendulum and you want to find a pendulum for yourself, when you're going pendulum hunting, hold your pendulum, pick the pendulum that you like, and if it starts to move, that's the pendulum for you. That's the one that will work with you, okay? This one seems to be very, very interactive with me, and I used this when I was working through Ancestral Tarot, so I've decided to keep this one with me. If it just stays still, it might not be for you at this given time. Your pendulum, of course, doesn't have to be a bought pendulum. It can be a pendulum that you have created from a necklace. If you wear a pendant and popping that on the chain just and holding that, that will work too. I will be using my pendulum board in this activity, in the activities for this project. And that's the pendulum board I have. You can see it's got the yes, no, the maybes, the ask again, check again, days of the week, the signs of the zodiac, letters, numbers, and months of the year. So that's what I will be using with this. I'm also going to be using charms because I will be doing a little bit of charm casting. So how do I pick my charms that I'm going to be using for this? Do I want to use the entire box of charms that I have over about 300-400 charms in it? No, I didn't. What I wanted to do was this, and just where it is it? I purchased myself a lovely little box recently on my trip to Prague, and this is going to hold the charms for this project. How did I go about choosing what I wanted? Right, this is what I did. I chose charms that I felt linked me in some way to members of my family. So my granddad fought in the war, so I have an aeroplane. Okay, my Uncle Charlie was at sea, so we have a wheel from a boat. Is the person that I'm speaking to part of my family? So I've used this as a family tree, as a family tree, rather than the tree of life. I've got 1, 2, 3 4 that I would take as messages from my father, and that's a robin. Okay. A butterfly, and the reason I'm choosing these is there are a number of reasons why I'm choosing these, because they all mean something very strong to me. The reason I'm choosing a hand mirror, a little hand mirror, on the day my father died, my daughter, who was very close to him, is his oldest granddaughter, just out of the blue, we had literally come home from the hospital, and she was heartbroken. We all were. And my mum and sister were sitting in the sitting room, very upset. I went into the kitchen. My brother-in-law was in there popping the kettle on. And I just stood there. I didn't know what to say, what to do, how to act. And my daughter just looked up at me and she went, "I wouldn't like to be you." And I thought, why? You'll have such a fright. I'm using tamer words. You'll have such a fright when you look in the mirror in the morning. And I thought, my dad and I looked extremely alike, except he didn't have long hair and I didn't at the time either. But we looked extremely alike. So that made me smile, made me laugh. So that had to go in. And one of the last things my father said to me was, I will be with you forever. I will be here with you forever. So that is there as well. Then I've got other little keys. Now this one here, it's not a shamrock, it's a 4-leaf clover. However, I'm using that as a symbol to represent a shamrock for messages from family that come from the Irish side of the water. I've got a dinosaur in case it's somebody from ancient times that I don't know, never met. I've got interests of my own, and if they want to tell me that they share those interests, then they can. The interest is my home. I'm very happy in my home, and you can see my little witchy craft projects there. So if anyone wants to tell me that they did the same in their home. I have the Om symbol for, you know, if they liked to take time out and relax. I love going out on my bicycle, so I have a bicycle. Maybe one of my more recently deceased ancestors liked that too. I know my Uncle Charlie did. I love the summertime. Did they love the summertime? So that's a little sun peering from behind a cloud. Okay, and I like craft and art, particularly painting, and there we go. Now I've also chosen to put a little key in. Now the key has a lot of meanings for me. The key to unlock the mystery of this ancestral tarot, the key to unlock anything that we're puzzling over, that suddenly we get that idea and it solves a problem, or it shows us another direction in which to go when we're doing anything. So I decided to put that in, but I also thought the key in this instance is going to be my marker. And the charms that are closest to my marker, I'll read 3 charms on each casting. And the charms that are closest to the marker are the ones that are the important ones to read. So that's how I'm going to operate this. I might make myself, as I did with the story cubes, I made a special board. I might even cast my story cubes. So any cubes that land on the board are the cubes that are red. I've got a lump in my resin there. So any cubes when I cast them that come up on here, others that fall off are not red. So those, only those that stay on the board. And I cast 9 cubes at a time. So that's that. Those are what I'm going to be using for casting, the story cubes and my little pot of charms. Other things I will be using. So that's, I'm using my tarot, my oracle, my pendulum, my charms and my story cubes. And just so you can see them, I'm using the original story cubes, not the added on story cubes, although I might add some of them. You see these story cubes here, there are 9 cubes. You know, a cube has 6 sides, so we've got things like flowers, locks, theatre masks, compass points, fish. You know, that could be that's how they earned their, you know, made their living. They might have been fishermen. We've got a parachuter, so that would fit in with people that were in the forces. Again, we've a fountain, a question mark. They might be asking me a question, you know. That'd be a handy one to throw in, actually. And it goes on, you know. You've got somebody sleeping, a clock, talking, an arrow, light bulb moments for understanding, and a house. So if I was to throw, say, this one and get a house, and maybe get a fisherman, a fish. Okay, we'll use the fish for there. Let me see what else. What do we have here? We have fire, We have sheep, a magnet, footprints, a lock. Is that fire or a dragon? No fire, that's fire. So to me, were they farmers? What were they learning to do? Were they teachers? Did they teach? Were they from way back when, from ancient times, and fire was their source of energy? Did they do something that left footprints for us to follow, like have interests in spirituality, in any form of esoteric topics? And maybe those are the footprints I'm following, you know? So if I threw the dice, I ended up with a house, a sheep and a fish. So they lived in a home. So these were people from another century, but not ancient times. They made their lives through farming or fishing. Okay, so that's the sort of thing that I would use these for. There's another set, you get a few of these sets now. I don't want to make it too complicated, but these ones here have actions on them. So I might match them up and, well, not match them up, but have a look at what actions we've got that would fit. Some of these are too modern in a way, as these I used in school to help children write stories. So you have weightlifting, you have someone shouting, you have somebody helping each other and guiding each other along, you have somebody who's digging a hole, you know, the manual workers, builders. So you can see that there are different story cubes with different topics. You have voyages, you have ancestors, dinosaurs, ancient times, that sort of thing. So there are a variety of them. These are the ones that I kept. I donated all my others that I had to the school that I retired from. So there's those, which I don't think I'll be using for this project. These ones I will be. So again, it's a form of, it's casting, okay, tube casting. And they can really sort of get you thinking, you know. And then we have the oracle cards, which I discussed. And I'm not going to add Lenormand just yet, nor runes, because I'm not confident enough in reading them. So these will be here. Now, then I'm coming to the supplementary cards. Now, Nancy Hendrickson talks about supplementary cards in this particular chapter and their use. Now, I made some supplementary cards, okay. I'm skipping a lot here because I don't want to go in too depth, because in too deep, because you know you need to take from this as well what you think, not all my stuff, you know, not all my thoughts. This is how I'm going to be using them. Hopefully my practice will help you too. Now, in the front of this book, see, my book looks a little bit lumpy at the moment because I made an envelope and I stuck a little bit of ephemera on it to just make it look a little bit old. It's a little bit loose. I need to just stick some tape in to keep it there. But inside here, I have the supplementary cards. What are supplementary cards? Right. I used blank tarot cards. Now you can use postcards. You can cut up little pieces of cereal boxes if you wanted to and use them. But I had these to hand because I purchased some years ago for an art project. So they're blank, but on the ones that I've got, we make the following cards. Past life. Okay, so this is an ancestor or a person who I had close contact with during a past life, one of my past lives. So they were close to me. It might not have been a family member, but it could have been someone I worked with, a colleague, a friend, etc. Okay, not just family, so somebody from a past life. We then can add as many centuries as we want. So I decided to go the whole hog, going from the 21st, 20th, right the way through to the 1st century. Now, the 1st century were the years 200, okay? Well, sorry, the 2nd century were the years 200. The 1st century was what was called had two names, BC, which was before Christ, and BCE, which was before Common Era. Okay, so that's before time as we know it now, as we count it now. It was before Common Era. Then we had ancient times, and ancient times is further back again. It's going back into before common times. In ancient times, you know, any ancient ancestors that we have that are watching over us, we then have the male symbol and we have the female symbol. And we use these cards. So if now, for instance, let's just mix them up, because I haven't mixed these up at all. So I'm going to mix them up. And if I was to say, okay, now I might pull a card. Say I pulled the Fool, for instance. Okay, so it's somebody who's setting out, somebody who was young of heart, somebody who liked to go their own way, forge their own path. And I want to say to them, okay, tell me a little bit about yourself. So let's just draw a couple of cards. So we'll pull this one here. They're from the 14th century, so that's the 1300s. Okay, so they're a bit of a rebel in a way with the Fool card. Male. Okay, and we'll take a 3rd card. Well, there's no point taking a 3rd card of the century if it was past life, so there's no point taking a 3rd card. So we've got male from the 14th century. Okay, so this is going right the way back. So what would a male in the 14th century, in the 1300s, be doing? They would have been, you know, they could have been poor, they could have been labourers on the land, they could have been working hard to make ends meet, because life and times, as much as they were simpler in one way, they were exceptionally hard. But this person liked to forge their own way, were they a bit of a rebel, you know? So something that I can use, if I have a question, were you a bit of a rebel, flip my yes no coin. Would that be worth doing? It's always worth a try. So these are the supplementary cards that I've created under the direction of what Nancy has said in the book, and I'm keeping them there in the front of the book so that I've got easy access to them, and they're only going to be used for this project. I don't see me using them for anything else. They will be put into my grimoire, into a pocket in the grimoire, once I've got that up and going. I personally am making notes first, because I don't like to write directly into my grimoire. I like to make my notes and then go back and have my grimoire looking how I want it to look. Now, going on to other parts of the work. The next thing is having a sigil. Okay, so also, sorry, just coming into casting, you can use casting kits comprised of small metal tokens in a variety of shapes, like scissors, hands, boats, birds or money. I've shown you my casting kit and the cubes. Usually a casting board is used, although you can cast on the floor, on paper or on a box instead. A casting board has defined areas so that you can interpret the cast by seeing which charms land in which defined areas. For example, if a heart lands in the part of the board referencing work, you interpret the casting differently than if it landed in the love part. So yeah, actually, so it'd be well worth making a casting board. Just like you can put your own definitions onto a pendulum board, you can make your own casting board with any number of sections important to you, ranging from everyday life to magical parts. Parts of the board could be self, family, money, love, moon phases, candle magic, chakras, past lives, etc. So that makes sense. You can take the titles that you are wanting to investigate, such as family history, such as success and achievements, okay, money, love, you know, all the sort of things that you want to know about when it comes to your ancestors. Then we come on to sigils. Now, sigils are symbols or combinations of symbols to create a design of your own, okay, to create a desired outcome. So you can make sigils from things that are important to you. So if you were to look about things, what symbols, as an example here that Nancy has used, what symbols would you associate with the term healing? Well, for me, for the term healing, what I have used here, I have used a heart, and then around that the sun, and then encompassing it all, a flower, because I feel that love, warmth, beauty, both inner and outer beauty, and kindness, depicted by those three symbols, are what aid healing for me. And that is my sigil as such. That's my symbol. My sigil, when you're using numerology and letters together, is, so what I did for my sigil, what word would I pick to create my sigil? And I picked a word that I feel that in order for us to heal, okay, in order for us to enable others to heal, in order for us to do what we're doing here and our tarot work, etc., etc., what one word would describe what you need? What magical word would you think you need in order to assist progress and healing, etc., etc.? My word that I chose was belief. We need to have belief in ourselves. We need to have belief in what we do. Otherwise, why do it? And the word belief created this symbol. Okay, so this is my sigil for the word belief. And in the book, you can see here how Nancy has explained it, is having all these letters, okay, under these numbers. So A, J, and S would be for number 1. So anything that has a number 1, you'd start here, okay? And you would take whatever word you have, that's mine down there. So whatever letter, whatever number square your letter appears in, you draw the sigil. Now, if your word has more than one of those letters, you just pick one. You don't keep going back and having it going all over the way like a spider that's dipped its feet in ink and run across a page. You have it clear and concise, so you don't repeat letters. So belief, it had 2 E's in it, but I only visited that E once. It was, for me, it was B-E-L-I, then there was an E and F. So that was mine. There you go. It should be there, but I did add it. So there you go. So that's what you do with your sigils, okay? Your sigils can then be used to transfer your positive energy into anything. You can engrave it onto a candle. So if you're doing candle magic and you want to put your energy into it, you put your sigil onto it, and it gives it more energy. You can engrave it onto a piece of wood. The sigil I created, now this activity is in Ancestral Tarot, but it's repeated here differently. I put my sigil onto a piece of wood to charge this piece of wood. I also sprayed it with one of my favourite oils, so it smells lovely. And I charge things that are special to me on here. And I've shown you these items before, and this is all to do with my ancestral work, okay? And my pendulum sits on there too when it's not in use. So that's charged with positivity, and that is what your sigil does. It charges everything. Now, it would be easy to say, well, the tarot are answering these questions, the oracle them, the casting's doing that. But remember, the biggest and most important thing that we are working with when it comes to tools is nothing that you can touch or hold. It's your energy. And if you've got a positive energy, you can work with your energy in order to get your tools to work effectively. It's what you take from your tools. The cards are not going to just give you answers. They're not performing the magic. What's performing the magic is your intuition, your belief, and your energy. So that's it so far. I am now starting my deep dive into this even deeper dive, and I've reached part 2 in the book, and I've now got to decide, am I going to work in months, in Sabbats, or in seasons? I don't know if I want to work in months. That's 12 months of the year. It's restrict myself to only being able to do a certain amount in 1 month. If I work in Sabbats, I could do that. But again, it can be a little bit restrictive. But if I work in seasons, I can work in blocks of 3 months. So because the book here starts in January, if I'm starting this now, I have to go to the back of the book at December, which is getting to the end of all this. It's not going to be chronologically correct working through it. So I've decided to work in seasons. So in December, I'm starting with winter. So I'm starting in the middle, the sort of middle of the first month of winter. So I'm going to do January and February. Now, between now, December, January, February. Okay, December I'm not doing because I will be coming round to doing December at the start of next winter. Okay, because this is a year-long project. So I'm going, like I say, January and February, I'm going to work through December, January and February. For the sections marked March, April and May, I'm going to work the 3 of them in the spring. Okay, so March, April and May being our spring doesn't mean to have to just leave that separate. I can work it all together and move on. And that goes then for autumn. For summer, it would be June, July and August. For autumn, it would be September, October, November. And then at the very beginning of December, I get back to do the December section. So this is going to be a long project, but if we delve in deep and we spend time that we allocate to ourselves in order to do this, because you will have to allocate yourself time, because it's not a little investigation. This is big. So I'm going to be giving myself, I would say, at least 5 hours a week. Now that doesn't sound a lot when you say 5 hours a week. That's 1 hour a day. But it's 1 hour a day, Monday to Friday, of deep study. Now I won't get to be able to do it every day. I will be able to focus on it on Mondays, Thursdays and Fridays. And so I would split the 5, maybe 6 hours to doing 2 hours each day, sometimes 3. I might not get that much done in that time, but it will give me time that I would spend in my greenhouse, which I'm not at the moment, on this project. So that's how I'm going to sort of break mine down, I think, in seasons. And I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in. Now, what I have to do next is to actually revisit Tarot, the Land of Tarot, and to write down what comes to me. Now remember, visiting the Land of Tarot is in chapter 5. So we just go back to chapter 5 a second. Or chapter 4 was it, sorry. Chapter 4, the Land of Tarot. I'll just read this little bit out to you. In chapter 2 we started associating the tarot court cards with ancestral personalities, but I want to give you one more layer to use when working not only with the courts but with the whole deck. This is a visualization that will take you to the Land of Tarot. There you can gain insights on a different level than you will get with a reading. This is a short chapter, so stay with me, even if you're not too keen on using visualization. During this process, you'll enter your own inner landscape and create a place to connect with the people who live in the tarot deck. Here, the people will be walking around, talking with each other and with you. This visualization makes it easy to understand everyone as living people and not just characters on a card. The Land of Tarot that you will create via visualization will never be like anyone else's. This is the gateway through which you can meet every single person in a deck, chat with them, and really learn who they are at their core. To get there, all it takes is a little visualization. And here's how. So before you actually take the steps to carrying out this, read this piece here, okay, where you find a quiet spot. You won't be disturbed. Turn off all technology. Close your eyes, drop your shoulders, breathe deeply and relax. Take those real deep belly breaths. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just allow your mind to wander freely. Once you're settled in this environment, walk through a rainbow of energy, going from red to orange to yellow to green to blue to indigo to violet and finally to white. When you step out of the white energy and open your inner eyes, you'll be in the land of tarot. What you envision there may be a meadow, a waterfall. You could be outer space, you could be under the sea, you could be anywhere, okay? You might meet a member of the tarot family being the fool. You could meet the high priestess, you could meet the emperor, the empress, you could meet the hanged man, okay? But this is where you will stop and talk to these characters, okay? Here she says you could meet a unicorn or a talking boulder. As you wander through the landscape, it's possible that a guide will approach you, or you could randomly meet a tarot character. So somebody could approach you that actually isn't from the tarot deck, but would act as a guide, introducing you to anything or anyone that you come across on your path. And what you do, you know, the landscapes may change. You might fly, you may be on roller skates, you could be swimming, you could be an astronaut, whatever it is. You will meet people there. Write down what they say, write down what you feel, okay? You need to trust who you meet, be open with what you hear. You can ask for certain persons for a certain person to come forward. They may or may not. This is a land of surprises. Now for Nancy, the land of tarot begins with jumping off a cliff with the Fool, never knowing exactly where she'll land. But she trusts it's where she needs to be, and this is an excerpt from one of her journeys. Visiting the land of tarot, I walked down a path, and to the right was a woman in a white robe, her foot on a crescent moon, and she was holding a drum. I asked her if she was the high priestess, and she said that she was. I asked what she was doing here, and she told me that I was having a problem staying grounded with my meditation. So she was there to help me. She told me to continue down the path, and around the next bend I'd come to a walled town, and then I'd be in a field. I asked why she wore a crown of shimmering stars, and she said it was because she was being guided by divinity. So when she's journeyed to the land of tarot, she has taken the time upon returning to write what she saw, and that's what she's asking us to do. Not only did she learn about the people in the land of tarot, but she learned more about herself. This activity, haven't done this particular activity, but I've done the activity where you step into a tarot card and you talk to the character of that card. They might give you a little gift, and what is that gift? And you keep that gift. And it gets you to build a bond with that archetype. This is the same thing, but on a grander scale. It's like free roaming on a video game. You know, when you get games that sort of open forum games, and you can roam for miles without getting to a wall where you can't move. Assassin's Creed really does annoy me with that, but when I play PUBG, yep, I do play PUBG, you can roam for miles, and unless you get shot, you can go forever. But it's that sort of thing. It's like being free, being able to roam free, hearing your mind, being able to see what you see. Trust what you see, trust what you feel, trust what you hear. It's not you going mad. It's you getting in tune with your intuition, and getting to learn to trust what you see, hear, feel, smell, taste, any of those, okay? So that's going to be the activity that I have to do next, and write down what I find in order for me to continue on my ancestral journey. So my grimoire is going to be done in seasons. My tools are all ready, so you have to do that. So I've got my, how do I know that I'm following the Celtic route? Because of my DNA. I've done the DNA test with Ancestry.com. I've got all my tools here ready to go. There are 4 different types of magic here. If you're into astrology, you already know about planetary rulership, because you can use astrology, you can use all sorts, but each ancestor can work a certain type of magic. During their incarnation, they may have had extraordinary skills, you know. So did any of our ancestors use magic? Well, that's what we're going to find out. What sort of magic could they have used? What were the 4 main parts of magic? You've got family magic, personal magic, elemental magic, and celestial magic. But what do those actually mean? Family magic, inheriting magic. So that's sort of covers the month of January. Okay, so we've got months here. Inheriting of magic, under family magic, November ancestral magic, December magical you. So it's all going on. These are the different types of magic that you will be meeting as we go through this. Okay, and daily draws, looking at daily draws that we'll have to do at the end of each chapter. You'll find a suggestion for a daily draw or journal ideas, and they are built in. They're all built around the ancestor who came forward for you, as well as the magic explored during the month. If you do the daily draws, try to interpret your cards as they relate to a month's energies. For example, if you're working with manifestation, that's the personal magic of February, and your daily draw is temperance, how does that relate to the ancestor that you're trying to manifest? If your manifestation goal is a better work environment, how about adding flowers or a tabletop fountain to your work desk? Why? Because temperance is typically shown standing in front of an iris with 1 foot in the water. So it's just putting little things there that keep you focused, keep you grounded, keep you open to the idea that, you know, your ancestors are with you. Use the symbols on your daily draws to begin embedding their energy into your work, and if you journal using this technique, you'll quickly see your skills improving. Is it a magic born from thin air? Nope. Your willingness to merge clear intent with energy is what powers your magic. Okay? And then, which one holds your ancestors? One thing I do every morning is to ask the ancestors for a message. This is my process. For me, the 6 of Cups is always the card that represents the ancestors, not just for today, but for always. In the morning, I shuffle the entire deck and then draw down from the top until I get to the 6 of Cups. Then the next card in the deck is the daily message. Well, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. If my 6 of Cups is the last card in the deck, the message is the card that was on top of the deck. Right, okay. This is a powerful draw because it's a way that the ancestors can directly communicate their message. If you decide to do this practice, assign your ancestors' own card, like my 6 of Cups, that you feel most represents your ancestors. Then shuffle and begin drawing down in the deck till you reach your ancestor card. The next card is your message. So let's move on to January. So we're on the road to getting into the meaty stuff now. So folks, I'm going to be getting on with this. I will be checking back in with the next episode when I have really got stuck into my winter section of my Ancestral Tarot journey, or my Ancestral Grimoire journey. I hope this is interesting for you. I hope you do join in, and if you do, why not make a video and share it with us? It's also very interesting. Anyway, it's Saturday night. I'm going to go and get ready because we're going out for a couple of pints tonight. I'll have a beer for you all. Cheers. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.